I've designed the whole song around this line.
I have the high ground. I have the high ground.
Part of the key is like, how do we make this seem like it's a normal song?
Don't you turn against me.
Don't you turn against me. Bend that note a little bit flat to give it some color. You can take the melody up or down.
I have the high ground. I have the high ground.
And so this is where the fun begins. And you can see how you could get lost in just designing the melody. Take over, take over. You gotta repeat a couple of lines to make it catchy. That's probably what I get the most comments on. I did my best to emulate him. You know, Ewan's, he's a Jedi Knight, you know, Jedi Master. I'm just a YouTuber. Welcome to Royish Good Looks 2. My name is Roy, and today I've got a special episode for you. We are going inside the song, I Have the High Ground. This is going to be the ultimate deep dive of the writing, recording, mixing, and even remixing of the song. I've got the Pro Tools session open here. You can see it. There is a ton to dive into. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to leave no stone unturned in this, dare I say, classic Royish Good Looks Star Wars song. So let's get into it.
I have the high ground. I have the high ground.
I Have the High Ground was released in February 2018, which is 7 years ago, almost to the day. It's amassed a whopping 10 million views. At its peak popularity in 2020, it was getting 33,000 views a day. That was right after Rise of Skywalker was released, and Baby Yoda Fever was at an all-time high. It was a really special time for Star Wars and Star Wars YouTubers. And believe it or not, the video still gets about 1,000 views a day. It's my third most popular song. Number 2 is I'm Mr. Meeseeks, and number 1 is Hello from the Dark Side, of course. So judging by those 3 songs, you know, I really am a parody remix artist, but that's okay, because I owe a lot of my success to these very viral moments in time. And so I mentioned it a little bit here. Part of what makes I Have the High Ground so fun is it's an auto-tune style remix. I wouldn't be on YouTube if it wasn't for Shmo Yoho in the Auto-Tune the News series. So this is one of my many tributes to them in my own kind of style. And obviously, you know the scene. This is a classic scene from Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan tells Anakin, I have the high ground. This scene was begging to be remixed. I'm probably not the only person that's done some sort of high ground remix. It wouldn't surprise me if there were others out there. So I've taken the dialogue from the movie, from the duel on Mustafar, and turned that into a song, or turned that into a duet, I should say, a duet between Obi-Wan and Anakin, which is pretty cool. Now, I also made a Roy version of this song in April of 2020. It's literally the same song, the same music, it's even the same mix, but just with my own vocals recorded into it with the original dialogue, the remixed vocals muted. And it's even the same Pro Tools session, so we can dive back and forth between the remixed vocals and my re-recorded vocals here today. Unfortunately, it's not a duet. It's just me singing to myself. Maybe someday I'll record a duet. Who knows? In a nutshell, for re-recording my own vocals for the Roy version, it's really hard to sing or, you know, re-sing a remixed vocal melody. And so we can talk about that a little bit too. The remixing, I've been saying the auto-tune style remixing, Auto-Tune the News, that's what people think of, but it's actually Melodyne. So Melodyne, it's similar to Auto-Tune. Auto-Tune has an automatic mode that will just try to figure out what note you were singing and push it flat or sharp depending where you were. Melodyne does not have an automatic mode. You have to go back in and nudge all the notes around.
It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. I have the high ground.
Then you start to get those melodies that pop out, and you can see they're kind of manipulated here, almost like a MIDI note. So that's the secret sauce behind this. It's not Auto-Tune, it's Melodyne, but it's similar. And actually, I have put Auto-Tune as sort of a spell check here in the background. So kind of the best of both worlds there. Trying to make that original dialogue sound like a passable melody, that's the key to a great remix. But it's a much different form of composition, you know, for songwriting. You're not sitting down with a guitar and just kind of like banging out the chords, improvising melodies. You are dealing with something that's already there, and you're more kind of like quantizing the pitch rather than writing a melody. It's much more of a mechanical style of songwriting and arranging rather than a natural, I'm just going to sit down and play and see what comes out. It's a lot more like editing MIDI or programming MIDI, not playing it at all, but just simply like inputting it note by note. So it's limiting in some ways, but it's also a challenge, which makes it really fun. Now, one drawback of making a remix, at least for me, is I tend to simplify the chord progression or the chordal arrangement and the music to a certain degree to focus on making the melodies work. You know, if you can't sing along to the melody, you just don't have a song. If it's not catchy, if it's not fun, if it's not memorable, you're going to have a hard time. So one thing that ends up happening for me is I oversimplify the musical arrangement to a degree. And this song in particular, it's the same 4 chords over and over and over. Some of my original songs do that as well. But if that's the case, if you have the same 4 chords, how do you make the verse sound different from the chorus, sound different from the second verse, sound different from the bridge, etc.? The only way to do that is to arrange the parts to make it feel like the song is evolving. You know, if you just take a look at this overview here, there's drums, there's bass, there are tons of background instruments, piano, synthesizers, synth pads, choirs, organs, keys, ahs, tons of layers of guitars, rhythm guitars, lead guitars, and then of course the vocal on top. And by the end of the song, you could see, we could zoom in a little bit more here. By the end of the song, you can see all of these layers are on top of each other. Everything in the kitchen sink, right? Everything except the kitchen sink. I don't know what the analogy is there. And that is sort of a common technique that I use in my songs on the regular, but this here is kind of irregular. This is a lot of layers. And I guess maybe back around 2017, 2018, I did kind of take the approach of like, it's going to be a wall of sound, and that will make this song come to life. Just add more, and that'll solve your songwriting problems through the arrangement. But anyway, it's the same 4 chords from start to finish, just to make it easier on me so that I can focus on working on the melodies inside of Melodyne. It's not that you can't change the chords, which would actually help you write better melodies maybe, or at least different melodies. But like I said, this mechanical nature, like you've got to change the chords, and then you can go change the melodies. So that might sound a little bit lazy, like you're a songwriter, you're an arranger, a recording engineer, but that back and forth is a little less intuitive than if you could just sit down on a guitar and play the chords, sing the melodies. So because you can't really do those 2 things at the same time, I just say, this is the chord progression, we're going to loop that, and then I'll auto-tune or Melodyne a verse, I'll Melodyne a chorus, and we can just find all the individual sections of the song over top one chord progression, and then go back and rearrange it later. I do kind of wish, now saying this out loud, that I spent more time on the musical side of it, you know, finding a different chord progression, because that really can bring a lot of color in. But as you'll see when we go through this part by part, I've managed that in different ways through the arrangement. Which, by the way, if you're watching this and you're also making music and you're trying to make it interesting from start to finish, arranging is such a huge part of it. And a great arrangement makes it easier to mix. I'm not saying this song is a great arrangement, by the way. This is a little bit of a mess, but it kind of works out. It doesn't always work out when you just add a ton of tracks, but studying a great arrangement usually lends to a better mix and a better song. And again, it's funny because this is not how I arrange songs today. I try to do as much as I can with less today. If I can just have 2 guitar tracks left and right, and that makes the song work, that's ideal. If I need a lead on top of that, that's great. As soon as you add a third element, you know, a third musical part, it has to be serving a very particular function. And a lot of these parts do in this song, but sometimes you're just thinking like, oh, the song's not working, so we'll add more. And that's not necessarily the solution. It's like, well, what isn't working about it? Sometimes a simple chord progression change or a rhythmic change, a tonal change, you know, distortion to clean. There's lots of other solutions there. It's very interesting to go back into these older sessions and see how I used to write and arrange music and see how my process has evolved over the years. I intend to do a lot more of these inside the song episodes. So I'd love to hear any comments, questions about the process, and I'll bring those in to future episodes. And I'll try to recall as much as I can about my process, then comparing it to nowadays. So there's a lot here. We're going to go through every section of the song. We're going to go through every track. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. You can watch the full version of this video at the link in the description. Members of my Patreon already have access, but you don't have to be a member to watch the video. Anyone can watch it as a one-time purchase. Both go a long way in helping to support myself in the music that I make. So check the link in the description to watch the entire breakdown of the song. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for watching today, and I hope to see you on the breakdown.